All right, so good morning, good afternoon. People are joining us from all over the world today, and I wanted to welcome you to a very special Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants broadcast with us here today. If you are new to us, we are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world through over 40 monthly live free interactive broadcasts. Now, through this program, we get the chance to interact and work with some of the coolest explorers and scientists around the globe. But I am particularly excited today because today marks the beginning of our epic 4-part series, all at this time over the next 4 days, from the amazing work being done at IMPAC5 live in Vancouver right now. IMPAC5 is the International Marine Protected Area Congress, and what that means is that the world is coming together to talk, to work towards a future for the oceans, for millennia to come, a healthier ocean for people, for wildlife, and so much more. It's one of the most exciting conversations happening in the world, not just right now, but all year long. And I'm thrilled that you guys are joining us from truly around the world to hear from us today in this beginning of this series. We've got groups joining today from 8 countries on 5 continents, our biggest, most diverse geographical audience of the year, and it is no wonder why, because we have partnered today in conjunction with the amazing team at the Canadian Ocean Literacy Coalition and the All Atlantic Blue Schools Network to bring you 4 incredibly inspiring stories from speakers at IMPAC5. Now, first, I'm going to turn it over to Diz Glathero. She is the coordinator of the Canadian Ocean Literacy Coalition to explain to us a little bit about what IMPAC5 is all about. And then I'll introduce our speaker and we will dive in together. So Diz, welcome to the broadcast today. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks so much, Jesse, and good morning, good afternoon to all the students joining us from around the world. We are so excited to have you here at IMPAC5 in Vancouver, where Bodhi and I am live right now. There is over 3,000 leaders from around the world who are the ocean conservation leaders, really looking at how do we build marine protected areas to ensure that by 2030, we protect 30% of the oceanic waters and to continue to build that momentum throughout the decades to come. We all know that the ocean is the life support system of the planet, and we need a healthy ocean for all of us to thrive and survive. And so a lot of that work's being done. There's scientists, conservationists, educators, policymakers, Indigenous leaders. It's an incredibly diverse and exciting group. But why we wanted to do this series this week with you is amongst this leadership team here in Vancouver are young professionals from all over the world. Bodhi's one of them. We have 3 more joining us over the course of the next 3 days. And not only have they helped to co-organize this Congress, but they really are leading a lot of the sessions and their voices are instrumental. And they want to be a bridge to all of you because you too are part of the work that needs to be done in the ocean action over the years and decades to come. So thanks so much for joining us. I'm going to move out of the way, let Bodhi steal the show. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, Diz. And Bodhi, before you dive in, I just want to say that not only are you the best dancer of any speaker we've ever had in the background for a 30-second pop-up music of all time, but I could list so many superlatives and exciting stories from your early career. You have been such an amazing ocean advocate, linking together human health and ocean health around the globe, talking literally all over the world about this. But I will say that just having had the chance to talk with you the other day and to meet you for the first time, if any of our students today can be as passionate about anything in their lives as you are about the oceans, that's a successful life. Like, that is what we all strive towards, whether it's art, history, music, whatever. And I'm so honored to have you today as the kickoff speaker for this IMPAC5 series. So thank you so much for joining us, and take us away, man.
Hey everyone, I am so excited to be here, and we're gonna have a really fun session today. I hope it's the best one ever. But before we start, I want us all to take a deep breath just to get grounded. So settle into your chairs, or if you're standing up, close your eyes and breathe in and out. All right, check it out. Don't you already feel a little bit better, a little bit more calm? The cool thing about that is every second breath that we take comes from the ocean. Or as I like to say, 1/2 breath comes from forests of the sea and 1/2 breath comes from forests of the land, together for one world breath. joy. And the ocean has been my greatest teacher, along with all the great teachers out there. So shout out for having your kids on this amazing broadcast. And this is a picture in the most beautiful place in the world, I think, Moorea in French Polynesia. And it's this incredible coral bommies with fish and sharks and rays. And this was a place of true spiritual connection to the water. And I just want to share why the water matters and what we can do to protect it with a few examples of how hope, joy, and optimism can be radical solutions for ocean climate action. So what does that mean? Let's get into it. Here is a picture of the world without water. It looks pretty desolate and barren, right? What do you guys think? Give me a thumbs down if you don't like that. Woo, we need water, right? Water is all life on this planet. And as we can see, this is what our earth looks like with water. It looks beautiful and rich, and that's why we need to protect it. But here's a little bit more about me. I love surfing. I love kelp and seaweed. Seaweed actually sequesters a lot of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere that's causing global warming. I love connecting with spiritual practices, and this bird in the middle is a voyaging bird. It voyages all across the Pacific, and it brings people, communities together. It's a symbol of the va'a, or the traditional sailing canoe. And I love just reflecting, taking time to be by the water. That's a privilege, and we'll explore how we can unlock our privilege for good and tap into connecting with the ocean and the waters inside and around us all. So I co-created a youth organization in order to do this, in order to take action to protect the ocean that protects us all 2.5 years ago. And in the last 2 years, we've basically been able to build up a global community. So I'm going to share a little bit more about Ocean Uprise, how you all can get involved, and why we need your help. Because you are the future, we are the future, and the future is now. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. So as you can see here, you might spot a funny black Pomeranian dog being held up. Look for it, everyone. Bonus points if you can find it and tell me later. This is Ocean Uprise, and what we do is bring communities together to do beach cleanups, to do educational talks, to understand that plastic pollution stems from fossil fuels and this colonial infrastructure, these systems of oppression we've been raised and grown up in and are working to break down. But most importantly, to have fun, have stoke. And this is on the North Shore of Oahu, a place that's very special, near and dear to my heart. I'm going to share a bit about Ocean Uprise all around the world. So one of the things we do is work with mangroves. And mangroves are incredible systems. They're blue carbon ecosystems. They capture carbon, they provide life support for people, they provide livelihood. And here our team is working on planting different types of mangrove species. If you look closely, you'll see their roots are suspended above the ground. They're able to absorb and capture that carbon dioxide and put it in the soil, in the mud flat. And at high tide, some of these mangroves are covered up with water, and they provide a nursery for all the little fishies that like to swim by. So they're really our friends, and that's what some of our Ocean Uprisers are doing. Our other Ocean Uprisers, we have 120 alumni now in total, are doing beach cleanups and bringing their communities together. This is in the Dominican Republic. We've had cleanups all around, especially around these large boat areas, these harbors, where a lot of the very wealthy yachts leave their trash in the water. We found this all around, and that's why we have to clean up the beaches that affect the communities that are closest to us. Not because we just want to keep a clean beach, but we want to keep ourselves healthy. We want to keep plastic out of ourselves, and we want to reduce the bioaccumulation that exists when we eat. When we eat fish, when we eat food, we literally are eating plastic. So that's why we want to combat that, help to take action, but show that we need to divest in fossil fuels. We need to stop using oil, coal, and gas, so that we can grow above and be healthy and have a healthy ocean, because they're inextricably connected. And another way we do activism and action is we just show art, and we show this power and connection we all have to the world and to an environment, whether it's clean or dirty, and how we all have a stake, all have a fundamental opportunity to do something to protect it. And whether you feel connected to the environment or not, that's not necessarily what matters, because you can always develop that connection. But you just need to know that literally every time you breathe, every cell in your body has water in it. We're all connected to the water, and it all grounds us. And that's why we all have a stake. No matter if you're from inland or you're from the coast of South Africa, you all have a stake in protecting your waters within and without. And here's a beautiful picture of some corals in the Red Sea. I had a chance to dive here. And one of the things we do is coral reef restoration, and we work with different organizations to promote the restoration of coral reefs, but mostly to educate students all around the world. And we've done this in Hawaii, in Oahu, we've done this all around the world, and we're working to showcase the vitality and importance of coral reefs. I know in some of the last sessions you learned about coral reefs, and they're really, really important because they host, I guess you guys all watched Finding Nemo, right? It looks like that in the Red Sea. It's so cool because the water and salinity is the same temperature, and these corals are more resistant to climate change now. They've developed specific biotics within them, like coating themselves with medicine, like sunscreen, basically, to protect themselves from the heat. So we're looking and educating and researching and exploring that as well. And really today is all about finding your superpower. My superpower is just connecting with the water, within and without, and knowing that I can bring together a community, bring together people I love to do something good, to have an ocean uprise, to really rise up to protect the sea. And I want to ask you all and have you all think about, write down in your journals, if you have a journal, write down in whatever you like to reflect and talk with your parents, what is your superpower? Maybe it's art, music, dance. Maybe it's, being really funny. Are you the class clown? Maybe you really know how to get people going, or maybe you're really quiet and observant and you love doing science. Whatever it is, you all have a superpower, and that's what makes you so special and unique. And that's what makes you have the opportunity to change the world with us, to create this healthier future that we all need. So this is a funny picture. I love kelp and seaweed, and this is just a bit about me. And this is actually a megalodon tooth my friend found in South Carolina. And megalodon teeth are very common in South Carolina. You can walk up and you can find these huge teeth as big as my hand. Like, imagine having like 2 vampire teeth like that. Yeah, that's how big those sharks were. But a big part of who I am is connecting and being underwater, being in the water. So that's why I really have a stake in protecting it. It all goes back to this connection we feel. And other ways we get involved with Ocean Uprise is through artivism. We've created murals and educational events to showcase how plastic is really a huge issue, but how the root, again, fossil fuels, is what we need to combat, and how we can turn off the tap to plastic pollution. We also use art to create surfboards and other things. This surfboard is made out of 5,000 cigarette butts that we collected on the beach. Another way we get involved is through showcasing through words and through visuals what we want to protect. We do protests, we do engagements, but most importantly, we share stories. And one of the most powerful ways to learn from stories is with Indigenous and local peoples. I've learned a lot, and this is my friend from Aotearoa. She's very connected, or New Zealand, for those of you who don't know Aotearoa in the Pacific. She's very connected to the water, and this sort of resemblance is what can bring together these big communities. And in my own journey, I've been able to be an activist, an advocate, and most importantly, a solutionist, bringing solutions to big conferences like COP27 that was hosted in Egypt, the climate change conference that's hosted every year, and making sure that young people, people of color, and Indigenous people have a voice at these events where we historically haven't. So Ocean Uprise has really gone all over the globe, and today I'm asking you all 2 questions. 1, what is your superpower? And 2, would you like to join us? Because we certainly need you. So we do offer a few cool programs. We have an internship that hosts youth from 16 onwards. So in a few years, you'll be able to apply for that. So keep your eyes posted. And maybe after today, if everyone's inspired, we'll create an internship for younger students. And we also have a free educational platform. So just from by the seat of your pants, you can literally explore activism, journeys on coral gardening, on coral solutions, on how we're connected to the water, on debunking plastic pollution, and really grounding into the shared sense of ocean we have, on artisanal fisheries, and much, much more from global experts and speakers on our free educational site. And I'll send the link. It's edu.parlay.tv, and everyone can join there. But really, I would like to invite you all personally and really from the bottom of my heart to be a part of this movement and to use your superpower to change the world for good. And it doesn't have to be a whole big thing. It can just start with a friend. It can just start with yourself. And I want to also remind you all, because in 5th grade, I had a lot of anxiety. I wasn't sure what I wanted. I wasn't sure who I was. I didn't know how I could do anything good in the world. I wasn't sure what my purpose was. So I want to remind you all that the most important thing in life, above everything, above your grades, don't tell your parents I said this, please. I don't want to get in trouble. Above your grades, above your sports, above your accolades is making sure that you take care of yourself. I'm going to say that again, making sure you take care of yourself and you stay connected, because that is the tree, that is the roots of your tree of life. And if you have a strong roots, if you have a strong foundation, just like in the mangrove or just like a big Douglas fir we have outside of the convention center and in Vancouver and Stanley Park here in beautiful British Columbia, if you have strong roots, you can grow a big, huge trunk and huge branches and huge leaves, and you can really have that fruit to grow an entire forest, a community around you. So I thank you all so much for your love, for listening, for being a part of this today. And I really appreciate you all reflecting on what your superpower is. And I really just want to hear from everyone else. So let's get to questions and let's see what everyone thinks. And would love to answer the question again, what is your superpower? And take time to reflect on that. But please reach out. I know 5th graders normally don't send emails, but if you're off the charts, then feel free to email me. But sending lots of love to everyone. Thank you.
Bodhi, that was fantastic, man. Thank you so much for sharing that story with us today. If you want to come out of screen share so you can see us, we can have a bit of a conversation. And of course, if anyone wants to follow up, all your contact info is there. We'd be happy to get that to all our registered classes as well. And as I said, we've got groups in 8 countries, 5 continents that registered for today's program, which is amazing. A testament to the power of your work and advocacy. And just really appreciate you sharing that story to kick off our IMPAC5 celebrations today. So, as you said, we are going to dive in with questions. For any of our folks on YouTube, if you want to share on the Ocean Literacy Coalition YouTube, the Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants YouTube, I will see all those comments and share them in live with us. We've got our 3 classes live in StreamYard, and it's so nice to have you guys all here. But Bodhi, I want to kick off with a question of my own, give our kids a chance to percolate on that and think about the power of email as well. Is there a place you've been? Is there a community, a country, a place that you've been where people grow up connected to the ocean? You highlighted this sort of difference between people that might be inland. Some of our kids may never have even seen an ocean compared to on coasts around the globe. Is there a place that really jumps out to you where people really live and breathe this the way that you do?
Yeah, and while I share this, I would love it if you could pull up a picture of this island, Moorea in French Polynesia. I just want the kids to feel captive. I have some pictures and some stories. So I want to share a little story. I had the huge opportunity of attending a conference called the Blue Climate Summit that happened in French Polynesia. And I realized it's not really French Polynesia. The French people basically colonized these island chains in Polynesia, and now it's called French Polynesia, but really it's the heart of the Pacific. And to me, I'm a little bit percentage Pacific Islander, but mostly my heart lies there. And yeah, as you can see, this is a very, very special place. It's, in fact, unreal beautiful. And it's actually said to be the heart center, the female energy heart center of the entire world. And so right in between this passage, they call it Cook's Bay. There's a lot of other indigenous names for this. That first picture was, I was diving right on that reef passage, right where the deeper blue water goes towards that crystal clear, light blue, aquamarine color. And in that spot right there, I've never felt more connected to myself, to the ocean, and to this one shared planet that we have. And so yesterday, we actually had, 2 days ago, we had a demonstration against deep seabed mining. And some folks are starting to want to explore deep seabed mining, and we won't get into it. But basically, we need to say no to all these big organizations, this industry that wants to take things from the ocean, take things from our heart and use it for their profit. And what we can do is stand up to protect the places we love by speaking up to your friends, colleagues, classmates. Oh my gosh, you're 5th grade, you don't have colleagues, whatever. Your friends on the playground when you're doing jump rope, whatever. Just tell everyone that you care about. We need to protect the ocean. We need to connect with it. Oh my gosh, I'm like 20, but now I'm talking like a businessman. This is, you guys, I got to spend some time with you in the class. Like, you got to teach me, please. But going back to the story, just to wrap up here, is these people welcomed me in like family. And this summer, I'm gonna raise $15,000 before this summer so I can go there, bring a young person, a local Indigenous person from Tetiaroa Society from that island to attend a 2-month, basically working with the land, working with the ocean, doing shark tracking, doing restoration of native species, doing eradication of invasive species, and create this short film, this 2-minute short film, just showing our connection to this one world breath we all have. And that sense of kinship, that sense of family is what is so strong. And there's nothing stronger. There's no stronger force in the world than this connection that we have.
Yeah, that is a beautiful story. I wish you the very best in raising that money. And of course, people can find out more about that on your websites, all the things that you had the chance to link at the end of the broadcast. And by the way, I mean, you talk about grade 5s organizing and talking about this and sharing this. And one thing that I've found in this role where I get to work with all these amazing conservationists and scientists is that kids know the facts. Like, they do this already. I think everyone assumed it would be my generation that would be like leading the charge. And I mean, people your age and younger like live and breathe this every day. You know the things, you do educate elders, you talk to colleagues of all kinds, and whatever they might be joining from, to share these stories. And I think it's such a special thing to see kids so involved in activism like that. So I'm glad we got that message in, and that beautiful place. And what a just, I mean, even by the standards of like world beauty, that is probably the most special place there is. We're going to head to Miss Edie's class, joining us in Asheville, North Carolina. We're going to head to our Barrie class and Hamilton class after that. So if you guys want to share questions in the chat or get ready with your mics, you can. But North Carolina, if you guys want to kick us off, hey, Global Explorers.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Miss Edie, and our class had a recent climate summit, and we had students pick a point around the world, and we compared the climate and the weather over time in Asheville, North Carolina, to the place that they were studying. And one of the things we did to know a little bit more about that place was to dig into origin stories. Because we thought that a lot of stories might come from the water that was located in the place we were studying, or from the rocks, or from the animals that were indigenous there. So I, as a teacher, like to know how you use indigenous people's stories to inform the work that you do, because we really enjoyed learning some of the stories that explain things that were reflected on the culture and the natural history of the places we study. And I'm sure my kiddos have lots of questions as well.
Wow, that is a brilliant question. Hey guys, don't fall out of your seats, literally. What a wonderful teacher you have, first of all, and what a great class you're starting. 5th grade and you're doing a climate summit. Oh my gosh, you guys are going to be kicking butt. In a few years. So, well, you're already doing it. So I want to share 2 stories. One is the Hawaiian origin story of all life on the planet, and one is a story I learned from the Maori people yesterday. So Uncle Sol, he's a Hawaiian uncle and an elder, and he's very connected to the ocean. He's learned from his ancestors, his kapuna, and he shared a few really interesting things yesterday with me. The first was the story of origin. So in Hawaiian culture, we all originate from the deep darkness of the ocean, a place that is very unknown still. You know, most of the ocean, 90+%, is still undiscovered. And in Hawaiian culture, everything originates from the birth of a coral polyp. And the coral polyp is what is structurally forming symbiosis with the zooxanthellae in the coral to create this beautiful coral reef that we have, and these colonies of coral. And this little polyp, this tiny little thing, Uncle Sol shares, is the origin of all life and is our greatest ancestor and oldest elder. Not only is the coral polyp our shared ancestor from wherever you are in the world in this tradition and culture, but it's something that we can look to and learn from. Because this relationship of symbiosis, this reciprocal relationship, this reciprocity, this give and take, natural ebb and flow, yin and yang, whatever you want to call it, I don't want to get too hippie out here, is foundational to their culture, foundational to their life. And so understanding that the ocean is literally the place of birth from us all. We come from our mother's womb, a watery womb, our own inner ocean is a shared reality. So we all have this responsibility, or kuleana, as Uncle Sol says, to protect this place, to protect our origins, and look to these, these polyps, these coral, this ocean as our greatest ancestor and teacher, and learn from the past to bring forward to the future. So that's one thing that I highly suggest you look into. There's a book called The Kumulipo. It's about the Hawaiian queen 150 years ago, before Hawaii was lost its sovereignty and became a U.S. state. If it didn't lose its sovereignty, Hawaii would be on the international stage today as a huge leader in marine conservation like it is, and also have a seat at international decision-making tables as a sovereign country. So very interesting to explore that. The second story, and I'll keep it brief so we can get to everyone, is in Maori culture in New Zealand, or Aotearoa. It's a very long name of their group, so I'm not even going to try to say it. It's very long and very powerful. They plan for 100 years. Literally, like what they do is plan for 100-year segments. So instead of planning for 3 to 5 year political electoral cycles within their governance, they plan for 100 years, and they focus on intergenerational collaboration and intergenerational dialogue. So how do you create a system, a cycle that is not only decolonized, but is just, and creating it over 100 years so all the ancestors and generations can be a part of building a solution? And that's why sometimes Western science and indigenous knowledge, both worthy in their own rights, don't connect, because there's this in Western science, sometimes there's not this cyclical sense of everything being expanded over a longer time. And that's why in connecting to that coral polyp, in connecting to our own inner ancestors, we have to understand that it takes time. It naturally takes time to learn. Sometimes I get down on myself. Oh, you don't know enough, Bodhi. Oh, like your inner voice, the devil and the angel on your shoulder. Like, oh, you don't know enough. You need to learn more. It takes time. And I'm glad to have that reminded. So you don't have to know everything. You just make sure you keep your heart healthy, and you can feel that.
I love that. And we've had the chance to feature stories from people off Vancouver Island and Indigenous communities, Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh First Nations, talking about this exact principle. In Ontario, Haudenosaunee people, 7 generations as an idea. So you think 7 generations into the future, which is something that's so different from sort of the Western way of thinking about the world, that, let's exploit it as fast as possible. Let's get as much out of it as possible. And I mean, that has led to a lot of the developments and changes that have been positive in the world, but it's also led to a lot of negatives, which we're starting to work and understand as a society that we need to change our practices, change our ways of thinking. And so it's heartening and nice to hear that not only is that idea reflected all around the world, but something that's really coming to inform places like IMPAC5, where people are meeting from all around the globe. So thanks for that answer, man. Miss Scotchling's class. Now, you guys are just audio, but you can come on in for a question. We'll hear you, and you're good to go. Your mic is on.
Hi.
Hi.
We're just starting our biodiversity unit, so we might not have a ton of questions, but this is kind of a nice start for us.
Yeah.
One of the first questions was from Mohammed. Mohammed, can you ask your question?
Why do we have to save the environment?
Why do we have to save the environment, Bodhi? Why is it important to protect these places? Great question.
That's a great question. I actually don't think we have to save the environment. The reality is we have to save ourselves. So in this Anthropocene, in this global system, humans are at the forefront of destruction of nature. But it's not every human equally. In fact, it's some of the biggest organizations and the biggest colonial systems that are perpetuating the destruction of nature. So when people say that, everyone is contributing to the destruction of nature, everyone is, killing the planet, I really disagree. And maybe that's controversial, but I think these big systems, big agriculture, big industry, the big livestock industries and fossil fuels are really at the forefront. They're kind of like the villains. They're the bad guys in the story. And we all have the chance to be our own local heroes, our own superheroes for each other, for ourselves, for our communities and our families. And that's why I think we don't have to save the environment, but really we're kind of on a mission to save ourselves. And I think this is an opportunity to form reciprocity. So how do we interact with our local space? I'll give a few examples. So one thing is super simple, right? In Ocean Uprise, we literally clean the beach, clean the rivers. But why we do this and why we start upstream on the mountain or the river is because every single body of water somehow eventually flows and connects to the ocean, this shared global body of water. And that's why upstream we have to protect it. We have to understand that we have to take plastic out. We have to control nitrogen and phosphorus, all these toxic fertilizers from these huge farms that are going into the river that cause eutrophication or toxic algal blooms. It's all a connected system. So again, we don't have to save the environment, really. We have to save ourselves, and in doing so form a symbiotic relationship like that coral polyp and zooxanthellae, like the corals, the reefs that we create, so that we can have a planet we can live on, inhabit, live with, and learn from. Great question, Mohammed.
It is a great question. And you hear this from kids a lot. The idea of like, well, we kill the world will survive. The world's been here for 4.5 billion years and life will go on. But we don't want to impact life in a negative way. We don't want to have a world without a Great Barrier Reef. We don't want to have a world without rainforest for many reasons. But the main one from a selfish perspective is that we rely on those systems to keep ourselves alive. You wouldn't walk around your house throwing garbage, destroying the systems that keep it. You wouldn't destroy the furnace. You wouldn't tip the fridge over and start hacking at the walls. And this is what we're doing when we're impacting the environment in a negative way. And I think it's really important to emphasize that by getting rid of those systems, by impacting those ecosystems in a negative way, we're hurting ourselves as well as hurting all other life on Earth. And so I'm really glad we got that. On the upstream note, I just want to highlight this for teachers that might be really keen. My favorite project ever to stop plastic from reaching the oceans is Mr. Trash Wheel, which is in the Baltimore Harbor and other places around the globe. So I encourage you to check that out in addition to our Ocean Uprise explorations that you can do with Bodhi's projects around the globe. Miss Edie's class, I'm going to come back to you guys. We'll take a few questions from YouTube too. And time flies when you're having fun, Bodhi. We're not going to go too much longer, but I'm excited to head back to Asheville if they've got a second question for us. Hi, Global Explorers. Hey.
Go ahead, one of you. Come on. Go. Eli, come on.
Don't be shy. Don't bite. I promise.
What was the things that stood out?
Wait. Have you ever been to Micronesia?
Micronesia.
That's a great question. So how I think of the Pacific and Polynesia is an octopus. So it's literally, if you look on the map, a lot of Pacific Islanders, they draw and show the Pacific as an octopus. So Micronesia, Melanesia, and Polynesia all connected. And within this octopus, the head, the kind of the root of the octopus is in many cultures, and from what I've learned, in Raiatea, this small island in French Polynesia in the Pacific. And this octopus spreads its tentacles all around the world across Melanesia, Micronesia, and Polynesia. So I would say the closest I've been, and that includes Hawaii, that includes all the Pacific Islands, that includes French Polynesia, Tahiti, these beautiful places we hear of. That includes New Zealand, Aotearoa on this side, this arm, this tentacle. Then it reaches all the way up, right? And it goes even towards, bigger island chains. I don't know if it goes all the way to Indonesia and the Philippines. Maybe we'll have to look and see how the octopus is shown differently. But yeah, I would say I feel like I've been connected to that octopus, so I've been all around. And I actually also work with my octopus teacher. So if you haven't seen the film, you should watch it. And we're creating this short One World Breath. So one way for everyone to get involved and to be a part of this is also, if people want to share, do a deep breath on camera, send in an audio of their deep breath. We have it on oneworldbreath.org. Everyone can be a part of it. We're going to make a cool music video, have some concerts. So if you want to share your audio of your breath, we would love to have that. But I think we're all from the ocean, right? So we've all kind of been around, whether it's way back in the past or in our lives, if we've had the opportunity to literally go to those places.
Bodhi, I love the idea of the breath thing. I'm so excited to share that in the future. You'll have to come back on for that. And if teachers haven't heard of My Octopus Teacher, it's an amazing film. You can check this out on streaming. Really, really cool opportunity to learn about one of the coolest creatures in the oceans. By the way, I think we talked about some sort of Disney movies throughout the broadcast. Finding Nemo we mentioned earlier. Moana's the story of wayfinders, of going across the oceans around the world to go explore these islands, which I truly think, of all the accomplishments man has ever done in our history ever, the fact that people back in the day, without GPS, without satellites, without the knowledge that there was an island out there, were able to read the waves and find islands in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, which is about a third of this planet, is just unbelievable. Like that story, as you kids get older and learn about that, I think that is one of the greatest, most amazing accomplishments ever. And I'm so glad we got the chance to talk about the octopus and that sea. Bodhi,
I want to add one thing quickly, Jesse.
please,
Before
go
we get to
for it. Yeah.
there's this guy called Uncle Mao or Papa Mao, who's basically the head of who was the head of Polynesian Voyager Society. And Polynesian Voyagers are still lying in the hulls of their canoe with their eyes closed or looking at the stars. They can feel where they are in the Pacific, where they are in relation to land, and they know exactly where to go because they go with the current. So these people, these Voyagers, are still alive and well, and there's schools all around the world. So if you want to be a Voyager one day too, you can.
Like, again, just imagine you're in a boat. For anyone who's even been in a boat, and a lot of students haven't, I wasn't in a boat, so I was quite older. Like, put your hand over a boat in the water, and you can tell that your island home is like 300 kilometers that way.
Yeah.
That is, I mean, it's mind-blowing. It's just unbelievable. Sorry, I could nerd out all day on this, Bodhi. It's very cool. We're going to head back to Hamilton for another live question. And then we're going to share sort of a final thing before we wrap up and highlight all the other ways you can get involved for this IMPAC5 series of programs. So, Ms. Gottschling, come on back in, and your mic is on. You're good to go.
Okay, we have a question from Ryder.
I have actually 3 questions.
Let's start with one.
One of them is, why do companies put garbage in islands, so like in the oceans? Why do companies do that?
Yeah, great question.
Why do companies always put like some liquid in the ocean? And my third one is why does people make plastic? Why do people make plastic? Like
Great question.
Man, you guys are 5 years ahead of me. Holy smokes. I want to preface this by saying I am not a global expert. I'm sharing from my experience. I'm a second-year student at the University of British Columbia studying climate justice. So remember to do your homework and fact check me, please. But from my understanding and learning, I'm going to answer the third question first. So backwards order. So plastic was starting production in about the 1900s, late 1900s, after the Second World War, as a way to decrease the amount of work that traditional housewives would have to do washing the dishes. And what happened then is it started to expand and boom globally. And eventually it created this whole global ecosystem where people had this throwaway culture. So what we did is we, had our dinner in front of the TV and threw it away in traditional and Western society. And of course, and not in all places this was done like that. But in North America, as communities started to boom after the Second World War, boomers hence, and as plastic expanded, false solutions like recycling infrastructure started to expand as well. And I don't want to completely rock your boats, but basically recycling was something that was created by the fossil fuel industry, by these big companies that you mentioned, to say that plastic use is okay because there's an alternative to dispose of it, recycling. In fact, only 9% of plastic all around the world is properly recycled. The other 91% is either thrown in the ocean or rivers, incinerated, improperly disposed of, or thrown in the dump or the landfill. So only 9% is truly recycled. And I've done the studies, I've looked at plastic upcycling, and really plastic is just bad for us. It's hard to upcycle. I'm literally choking up about this because it's also within us, right? But I'm not gonna scare you guys a little bit because I know you know this. But one of the things we have to do, like you said, is focus on these big companies, these big polluters, these big oil and gas industry like BP, Shell, Chevron, Exxon. You know them when you go with your mom or dad. Maybe you fill up at the gas station, or if maybe you have an electric car, maybe take the bus, whatever. But you know these companies, they are really the villains that are externalizing, basically putting the cost on the people and the environment rather than internalizing, paying the cost themselves. So in answer to your first 2 questions, which are amazing questions, and we need to explore this more, and thank you for asking them and thinking about this, is that we need to stop these big companies and call them out. So I have 2 calls to action in doing this. One is joining Break Free from Plastic Pollution. a global organization helping young people and communities divest from fossil fuels and plastic. And 2 is joining Ocean Uprise and going to and if you're in South Africa, I know we have a class from South Africa, tuning in, we have an educational station there where we take kids, we go surfing, we all do activities, we come back, we understand why plastic is an issue, and then we tackle it upstream, we do cleanups. So joining an air station. We also have one in Oahu, we're gonna have one in Chile and expand more globally and connect communities together. So those are 2 ways to take action. And then I would say the biggest one is to always question. Always ask questions to people that say they know what's up, say they have more power. Always ask your parents, where is this going? What's happening here? What is this made out of? That inquisivity, that curiosity is your superpower as well.
Bodhi, that's a beautiful answer. Again, I brought up those links and I'm going to share them with all our registered classes after. Just amazing ways of getting involved. If you want to find out more about plastics, how they've impacted our world, all sorts of things, you can check out National Geographic's Planet Earth Plastics, the greatest sort of hub of resources I've ever seen on this. And on our YouTube channel, we've done over 100 programs on marine plastics, how they get there, how the plastic industry got started, ways you can get involved. So I really encourage you to check out our videos there. Bodhi, we could talk all day, but is there a final message as we near the end of the broadcast that you want to share with all our students today that they can go home with to sort of to sum up this lesson and to keep the learning going when they're done? Anything to wrap up with?
Yeah, and I would love to answer another question if there's time too. But my final message, if this is the final message, is remember to center your own health and well-being and your love and connection first and foremost. It's like when you go into an airplane, they always tell, have you taken an airplane before or taken some sort of transport, they ask you to put your mask on first so you can breathe oxygen. It's really important to take care of yourself and take care of your health so that you can be a beautiful, bright light and a powerful creator in the world. And it doesn't matter if your goal is to save the planet or save the ocean, or if your goal is to do science or art or dance, or if it's just to, live as a nomad and explore, or if it's just to have fun and make music and create content and whatever it is. I mean, you guys are totally innovating. So I'm looking to you to learn a lot as well. This is intergenerational. And yeah, my biggest take home message is just make sure you center love at the base of all you do and grow your roots deep and strong.
Bodhi, it has been such a pleasure having you as the kickoff speaker. I couldn't think of a better kickoff person for our incredible IMPAC5 series. Diz, I see you inching in there. If you want to pop back in for our last little bit, or hi. I want to encourage all our classes. Check out impact5.ca. Find them on social media. Learn about all the amazing conversations and stories and programs happening at this incredible Congress happening in Vancouver right now. Check out callcoalition.ca and their social media pages to learn about the Canadian Ocean Literacy Coalition's work to unite all these amazing groups around the world, and the All-Atlantic Blue Schools Network. If you're on the Atlantic coast and you want to learn about this and get involved and collaborate with classes around the globe on the Atlantic Ocean, I encourage you to check that out. And of course, oceanuprise.com. Check out everything Bodhi's up to, an incredible advocate for the oceans, and such a pleasure having you. Diz, is there any last message you want to share before I bring in our class? Say a big thank you and farewell, or are we just good to go for our programs the rest of the week?
2 quick things. One, there were so many great questions when there were teachers were asking about biodiversity or starting their unit studies on biodiversity. We're really lucky here in IMPAC5. So many of the speakers that are leading the sessions are Indigenous. And one thing I just wanted to share as you start that unit of study, 80% of the world's biodiversity resides in Indigenous territories. And thankfully so, because they're the ones most connected to the natural world, and the leadership and thought leadership that come from these communities is essential. So one resource that has been created on the Ocean Week Canada site, Jesse, if you can pop that up, there's a learning hub. And there's a series of videos done by Indigenous water guardians that kind of talk about the work they do. What is a guardian? What do they do? How do they lead conservation efforts in their communities? That's a great resource to kind of start looking at as you explore biodiversity. So I just wanted to bring that up. Otherwise, please join us over the next couple of days. Same time tomorrow, we've got Achare Ayumba joining us. He is a young environmental leader who started his own NGO in Cameroon. The next day, we got Neha, who is a marine biologist, scientist, and underwater diver. And we're closing off on Thursday with Marie-Philippe, who is leading the Nature for All youth and storytelling program. And it's just going to be a fantastic next 3 days. So thanks so much for joining us. Thank you, Bodhi, and thank you, Jesse.
Thank you both so very much. We're going to bring in Miss Gotchling, Miss Edie's class to say a big thank you and farewell. So you guys are both in your microphones.